What lies behind? What's the purpose of this? More than that, someone that accepts the vow of Nazirut, so it has three effects upon the person. Number one, the person is forbidden to drink wine for 30 days. The second prohibition is not to cut one's hair for 30 days. The third provision is not to attend a funeral, not to become Tomei regarding Misa. Now, if you'll think about it, as I hope you will, that's not big. That's not such a big deal. There are people that don't drink wine anytime. Most people take a haircut once a month. Many people don't have the necessity ever to take a haircut. And we hope to go years and years without ever having to attend a funeral. So that's the purpose. And the purpose is unrecognizable as far as the outside world is concerned. So if you'll say Nazir Shimshon, that I understand. You never took a haircut in your life, it looks different. But as far as the ordinary Nazir, the 30-day Nazir, so what does the Torah want from us? And again, we find in Chazal, in the Gemara, that basically they looked at a Nazir negatively. I mentioned to you before, they said there are enough prohibitions. What do you come to add another prohibition? And we have the famous story of Shimon HaTzadik, who was the Kohen Gadol, the last of the Anshe Knesset Agdola. So the Gemara tells us that Shimon HaTzadik, who was the Kohen Gadol, said that he never participated in the sacrifice that a Nazir had to bring because he felt that the Nazirim were insincere, unnecessary. He didn't feel that it really was anything. There's one exception, which we'll talk about. So what's the purpose here? So Rashi, quoting the Gemara, Rashi says it's the juxtaposition of where the Parsha of Nazir is placed in the Torah. It's placed in the Torah after the Parsha of Sota. Sota is a woman that has been unfaithful. So she has to bring a special sacrifice. She has to drink the waters. The whole procedure of Sota. So the Gemara says the reason that these parshias follow one upon another is because Haroeh Sota Bikilkula, someone is aware that such a thing happened. Yasirat Sominayayim. So he should take the vow of being a Nazir, not to drink wine because wine loosens morals if it is not encased in a positive, holy atmosphere. So we use wine for Kiddush. We use it for Havdalah. We use it when we do a mitzvah. That sanctifies the wine. But just drinking wine without any purpose, in our time, they say there are medicinal benefits. I think the ones that say it are the wine producers, but apparently it does have a positive effect. So the Gemara says, Sota b'kul kula, you see that such things happen in the world, that there are loose morals, that there's a breakdown of trust and of faithfulness. So take preventive measures. Drive defensively. We all know that's the first rule here in our beloved country. You have to drive defensively. You have to anticipate that the guy will cut you off, that he will stop suddenly, that he'll pass on the wrong side of the road. You have to anticipate all of those things. And therefore, that affects how you drive. So in life, too, you have to drive defensively. You shouldn't expose yourself to all sorts of temptations which exist. And you shouldn't say, can't happen to me, because everything can happen. And no one is immune from the temptations and tragedies of life. So that's the standard approach to Nazirus. The standard approach is it's driving defensively. Now, we would say driving defensively, so except for the prohibition of wine, I mean, taking a haircut or not taking a haircut, going to a funeral, not going to a funeral, how does that save you from anything? So the Meforshim say it should be just the opposite. We have a posuk v'achai yitein el libo. Person unfortunately has to attend the funeral. It gives the person a moment's pause, because we're all going to have a funeral. So it serves to sharpen our morality. And here, just the opposite. And as far as cutting one's hair is concerned, again, for 30 days, that's hardly noticeable, especially in a society where men had facial hair all the time. So you can't really tell whether a person took a haircut 28 days or 30 days or 32 days. So what's involved here? And there's a whole Masechta, Maseches Nazir, one of the volumes of the Talmud that discusses all the laws of a Nazir, etc., etc. The question is whether in our time there is such a concept, But there's no question that in our time there were, and that perhaps there still are, a few people that followed the rules of being a Nazir. The famous Nazir was the colleague of Rav Kook here in Yerushalayim, that was a Nazir. And other people in America, I knew someone that was also. But it's a strange thing. So I want to give you a certain overview of what Nazir is about. The Gemara teaches us that Shimon HaTzadik, who was the Kohen Gadol, said that he never participated in the ceremony of a Nazir in the Beis Hamikdash. The reason he didn't participate is because he felt that the Nazirim were not sincere. They had ulterior motives for their behavior, and he felt it was unnecessary. Didn't contribute to the morality of the society, except for one. And he tells the story that once he met a Nazir min Adorom, who came from the south. And the Nazir had beautiful hair that he was going to have to shave off. And he was very handsome. And Shimon HaTzadik asked him, why did you take the vow of becoming a Nazir? What drove you? So he said, well, once I had to visit my father, and my father asked me to pasture his sheep. So I took the sheep out into the pasture, and then I went to the spring of water, to the well, to water them. And I looked in the spring, and I saw, like a mirror, I saw my countenance, what I looked like. And at that moment, I was overcome with desire. And in order to overcome that desire, I pledged myself to be a Nazir. So Shimon HaTzadik said, if so, then you are a true Nazir, and I will accept you as such. Strange story. The man never saw himself until that moment. What happened there? So the Mefarshim treat it almost literally. That this is the story and etc. But you can't make a lecture out of that. So I saw that there is I didn't see, I heard. There's an interpretation of the Maharsha, Shmuel Edel's. So he has a commentary to the Talmud. It's in two separate volumes. One is Chidushei Halachos, and one is Chidushei Agodos. And the Chidushei Agodos regarding the Agadah in the Gemara, the stories, he discusses this matter. He says, what is this story that Shimon HaTzadik is telling us? And why does the Gemara tell us that he was from the south, and a whole story with his father and being a shepherd? You can come right to the point. I looked in the mirror and I said, and he said that's the first time in his life he looked in the mirror. So he has a fantastic interpretation. And he says that this person, the Nazir, was a great Talmud Chacham, was a great scholar. That's why it says he came in Adorom, because the Gemara says, a road says, Yachkim Yadrim. Chochma is in the south, and the Beis Hamikdash was in the south, the menorah. So he's a great Talmud Chacham. And the Marsha said we should imagine he was a Rosh Yeshiva. And he went to see his father. He's got an old father. His father says to him, I can't water the sheep today. I can't take them to pasture. I can't get out. You do it. Well, his father told him to do it. So even though it's not according to his station in life, he goes, but he feels bad about going. Maybe somebody will see him. Maybe someone say, I saw the Rosh Yeshiva watering sheep. Maybe I'll lose status or stature in the eyes of people. And therefore, when he takes the sheep out, he does so very hesitantly. Doesn't do it with, And he comes to the well, and he looks in the well, and he sees himself. So the Marsha says he sees himself. All of a sudden, he analyzes himself. That's what it means, he sees himself. And he says, your father told you to do something. And the Torah has a mitzvah, kabed tzavicha v'esimecha. Do what your father told you to do. And you're worried that it will impinge upon your honor. Somebody will take a picture. And he said, at that moment, I realized my deficiency. And therefore, I took for myself the role of being a Nazir in order to strengthen myself that I should not be that arrogant. So the Marsha says that Nazirus is against arrogance. The arrogance that every human being has within himself or herself. My honor, my stature. What will others say about me? So the only way to deal with that is, so to speak, to, if not humiliate, at least humble oneself. And therefore, he says, these are things of humility. I can't drink wine. because wine can affect me. Wine only increases my arrogance. I'm going to have to shave off all of my hair, which is part of the korban, which certainly can be humiliating as far as certain people are concerned. And there's nothing as humbling as understanding the mortality that we have. That's what a funeral brings to us. So everything that this man did, Shimon HaTzadik was willing to compliment him for so doing because he was struggling against arrogance. That's why it says in Perek, Ma'od, Ma'od, Heve Shval Ruach. When it comes to defeating arrogance, there's no limit. Ma'od, Ma'od. Great, great, no limit. And we see that the Torah has no greater compliment for Moshe Rabbeinu than Voish Moshe Onod Ma'od. Moshe had no arrogance in it. Because arrogance is what drives us to do many, many stupid things in life. And that is the idea that it says, Aroes Sota Bikukula Yaziratso Minayayin. Why does the woman behave like that? Because she's arrogant. She's out to fulfill her own pleasures. She doesn't think of the collateral damage that's involved. What effect does it have upon her husband, upon the children, upon the family, upon the neighbors, upon the society? So selfishness leads to arrogance. And arrogance is a trait that the Torah cannot abide. The Gemara says that the Rebbe Shalom says that if there's an arrogant person, I cannot dwell with that person. There's not room for both of us. Because the arrogant person is ani v'afsi od. There's nobody else but me. That's part of the lesson of Jewish history regarding the Jewish people. The Gemara says, Yisrael azim shebu'umos. The Jewish people can be the most arrogant of all people. Shebocharbonu mikol ha'amim, v'nosam lonu es toraso. The chosen people who were given Eretz Yisrael. We survived 3,500 years. Everybody's interested in us, whether for good or for better. But we never go off the stage. You always got the main part. So it's possible for the Jewish people to say, look how great we are. So we had an enforced Nazirus, the exile, the hatred of the world, the violence of the world, the terrible things that have happened to us. All to cut us down a notch so that we shouldn't be that arrogant. And I think that that's a very important lesson of the Nazirus. So even though technically we're not going to become a Nazir, and technically we're not going to take such vows, but psychologically and morally, we have a great deal to learn from the Zirus, because that will give us an antidote to arrogance, which in turn leads to holiness and positive behavior. Thank you for coming, and Shabbat Shalom, Kol Tuv Sela. We have Pirkei Avot on Shabbat again. Thank you.
Everyone
I did.
with Eliyahu Hanabi, I noticed it. It says he had a lot of hair, and my granddaughter called me up and asked me, and I said, I'm gonna ask you.
There is an opinion that he was